These are 12 underrated hygiene essentials you have never heard of. While I was creating today's list, I was looking for options that have all three: healthy, effective, and affordable. In fact, some of the things that I'm talking about today are more affordable options, yet are still just as effective to things that I talked about earlier. So if you're interested in anything that I'm talking about in today's video, everything is going to be linked directly in this video. That way it's convenient for you to pick up anything that you might need. So starting off with the shower, by far the most underrated thing that nobody talks about is a shower filter. For weeks, even despite showering, I felt like my hair was becoming unhealthy, my scalp was feeling itchy, and my skin was starting to dry up, and I had no idea why. I knew it wasn't the products that I was using. In fact, I was actually blaming it on my eczema. But after doing some research, this is a common issue for people who live in bigger cities. So if you're struggling with the same thing, it's not you, it is your shower. So I went on Amazon, bought a $30 shower filter, and literally within a week, I feel like my skin has gotten healthier, my hair looks a lot more healthy and defined, and I actually feel clean. It was super easy to install, and replacement filters are also very affordable. So I think this thing is a game changer. So while on topic, let me bring you into the shower. Pause. The next thing is a body scrubber. I highly recommend one with a stick for those hard to reach places, which is something that most guys overlook. I also like having a silicone one with bristles because this exfoliates your skin to make sure you're actually clean, because most times using your hand just doesn't cut it. And think about it like this: when you're just using your hand, you're really only using your fingers. There's a lot of places that you think you're getting, but you're leaving a lot of areas without a deep scrub. So using an actual pad kind of covers more real estate. And especially moving into this year, do not be one of those guys who just lets the water run. Trust me, I was the same way. I thought the water was like self-cleaning. The water is obviously not what is making you clean. It's actually scrubbing down. So again, boys, this one I really recommend. So the next underrated thing that you could buy for the shower is a scalp scrubber. Now, by no means is this one an absolute essential, because again, your fingers are probably plenty. But like I mentioned earlier, I felt like my scalp was drying out. So to really make sure that my scalp is staying healthy again, I picked up this cheap purchase on Amazon that has been helping a ton. I like these because these have more sharp and pointy bristles, who is more effective. And one thing that I feel like nobody talks about is the fact that when you're just using your fingers, sometimes that could be a little bit too harsh. And with those pointy bristles that I was talking about earlier, you don't have to go as hard, because by now you should know your hair follicles are very fragile, especially while wet. So using something like this, it's a lot more gentle, yet more precise, if that makes sense. Also, if you want to be more fancy, I bought these adhesive hooks for the shower to throw on, which is great if you're running out of space or room in the shower shelf. Not only does it make your shower look more premium, it's just a little bit more convenient. And again, it's not an absolute essential, but it definitely does help. Especially for me, my little shelf was getting way too full. So I bought this one for like 20 bucks. Okay, finally moving away from the shower, let's talk about a good deodorant, which I love talking about, by the way, because most deodorants, they suck. Most of them are unhealthy, most of them are very ineffective, and a lot of people recommend antiperspirants. I've honestly never been a fan of those. But before talking about my recommendation for a deodorant, let's talk about one thing that every guy does that is ruining how your deodorant works. If you hop straight out the shower and apply deodorant immediately, the deodorant is not going to be sticking to your skin. It's actually going to be holding on onto the water, which just ends up drying out. So after a few hours, it's pretty much like you didn't use deodorant at all. So make sure that your skin is dry, which is also worth mentioning that this is a good reason to also shave your armpits. So that way it's not sticking onto your armpit hair, it's actually sticking onto your skin, which makes your deodorant a lot more effective. Now for my actual recommendation, I just bought this one from Geology. It actually smells really good. This one is supposed to be dermatologist approved, which I definitely do think is a marketing gimmick. However, it does check all the boxes for me. It has healthy ingredients. From personal experience, it actually is effective. I will say it's not the most affordable option, but deodorant is something that you should be more picky about. I'm telling you, you gotta drop the Old Spice, you gotta drop the Axe body spray. It doesn't have to be this specific one, but it should be something that is much more high quality. Okay, moving on into the next thing, let's talk about a good moisturizer, specifically for your face, which obviously this is not an underrated thing. However, the actual brand is most definitely underrated. I've never heard anybody else talk about this on YouTube. I'm kind of the only one, but Innisfree. This facial moisturizer is unbelievably good. By the way, this video is completely unsponsored. I actually don't even remember how I came across this brand, but since picking up this one, I have not been using anything else. The ingredients are fantastic, very healthy, natural, and very effective. It's not heavy like other moisturizers that I've used in the past, because if there's one thing that I hate, it's a moisturizer that leaves your skin extremely shiny. This one doesn't do that. I genuinely think that this one single-handedly makes my skin look so much better. So highly recommend this one. All right, now let's move on to oral hygiene, specifically how to make sure that your breath never smells bad, because the majority of bad breath comes from a dirty tongue. So if you're not scraping your tongue, hate to break it to you, your breath probably smells bad. So a cheap purchase you can make is a tongue scraper. Takes away all the built up bacteria. I got a stainless steel one, which I think is absolutely absolutely essential. It's quick and easy to use, very cheap. I actually bought this 2-pack on Amazon for $5. So you cannot tell me that this video isn't extremely affordable. Like I said, boys, this is a small purchase that every guy should get. So while on the topic of your mouth, by far my favorite thing to talk about is how to get a whiter smile. Now, every time I bring this up, I always feel like I have to mention white teeth doesn't mean clean teeth, but this is objectively one thing that will make you more attractive. Now, I used to always talk about Crest whitening strips, which don't get me wrong, I love those, but those are a little bit pricey. So I just went on ChatGPT and asked to find me brands with a similar formula, but with a more affordable price. And I came across this toothpaste from Hi Smile. This is the V34 color correcting toothpaste. Lately, I've been using this about twice a week. It's supposed to remove surface stains. And I gotta say, it's been working so good, if you can't tell already. But the best part about this one, I bought this for only $11. That is absolutely insane. Again, especially considering that I usually recommend Crest whitening strips, which are $35. So I don't think it gets more affordable than this. Again, I bought this on Amazon. Everything is going to be linked in the description. Okay, so let's talk about one issue that I was facing. Lately, my lips have been feeling dry. It's definitely not because of hydration, because I drink a ton of water, but I think it's pretty obvious since we're in January, weather's finally starting to get cold, which has been drying out my skin and lips. And literally since middle school, I've been chapstick's #1 hater. I would never understand how people use that. And these days, my favorite thing to use is beef tallow and beeswax. I got a pack of these on Amazon for really cheap. I want to say like $10. And especially right now that I'm recording this video in January, I keep this with me at all times. This actually leaves my lips hydrated. It also gives your lips a little bit of a shine, which again is just another thing that's objectively a more attractive thing. And of course, on the opposite side of things, chapped lips just don't look good. Of course, my first recommendation is to, stay hydrated, but even after that, buy yourself something similar to this one, and I promise you are going to have good, healthy lips. All right, the next thing is going to be better towels. Now, this one might seem random, but I think most guys have never actually had premium towels. Most of us still use the ones that our moms gave us when we were kids, but these are usually rough, they're way too harsh, which can leave your skin a little bit irritated. But even worse than that, if you are drying your hair with these rough towels, again, your hair is very fragile when it's wet. That is going to completely destroy how your hair looks and your hair health. So getting 100% cotton towels is a lot more soft. It actually does a better job of drying you as well. I got a pack from Quince. This was about $50, which again, I know is definitely steep, but it's definitely worth the money. And I know it's not just me, because whenever somebody uses my shower, they always ask me where I got my towels because they say it's so soft. Okay, next purchase you can make is a grooming kit. I'll be honest, this is something that I need to be more on top of, especially after recent comments. I was getting so flamed on for having dirty nails. Just take the extra 2 minutes a week or twice a week to cut your nails, keep them clean. See, the thing with me is I felt like it was okay because nobody pointed it out. That is a terrible way of thinking because most people are too polite to tell you, but just because they don't say anything doesn't mean they don't notice it. And if you really want to be more attractive, it really does come down to the small details, and something like clean fingernails, that is something that every guy should be focusing on. So get a grooming kit that has everything that you need in one place. I actually have no idea where I bought this from, but there are some cheaper ones on Amazon. And again, boys, this is something that you should just stay on top of. Now, something similar is also facial hair. I was growing out my facial hair, but it just looks so weird whenever you can't grow a full beard. And again, just because people weren't saying anything about my facial hair doesn't mean that people didn't notice. And I would definitely say that it is making you less attractive. So if you can't grow facial hair, I would say just shave it all off. And the easiest way to do that is an electric trimmer. For years now, I've been using the Philips Norelco One Blade. I swear by this thing. You can buy it for $50 or even cheaper. I really like this one because you could just raw dog it. You don't need water. You don't need shaving cream. It only takes a few minutes to have a clean, nice shave, which is just another thing that's going to instantly make you more attractive. And speaking of things that are going to make you more attractive, if you want to see a video about 10 items you need to become more attractive, then I'm going to leave a video for you to watch right here.